friends, my name is Emily. Welcome back to my channel. This is the week of the Femme Fantail read-along hosted by Jean and her friend whose name I'm blanking on. Still blanking on it. Links to all of the relevant humans and posts will be in the description box down below. And I thought it would only be fitting to talk about 5 of my favorite female fantasy authors during the week of the Femme Fantail readathon. So the first book I have here is a stand-in for the whole series, and that is Every Heart a Doorway, the first book in the Wayward Children series by Seanan McGuire. This is a series that plays with portal fantasy. So portal fantasy, think of things like Narnia or Michael Ende's Neverending Story. We often see it in children's literature, and it is the movement of a person from our primary world moving into the fantastical secondary world. The narrator being from our primary world is our access point because they don't know what's happening and we don't know what's happening. We are learning at the same time. A lot of like the classic traditional portal fantasies do have the child return at the end, and they're like, and everything was fine. And they don't ask the question of what it would be like to live and learn and grow up in another world and then have to go back to the primary world where maybe you aren't respected because you're a child. Your knowledge that you've accumulated means nothing in the primary world, and how jarring an experience that must be. Every Heart a Doorway asks and answers that question with the Wayward Children. All of the Wayward Children are children who have moved into a secondary world through a portal and have come back to the primary world for whatever reason and are not adjusting. And so they exist in a boarding school for children, trying to teach them how to reacclimate to society. And I just think this is so smart. This is exactly what I want from fantasy literature, is the genre being reflexive about genre staples. And I loved it. I think it's doing amazing work. And I think the most recent release, In an Absent Dream, is by far my favorite in the series. It's phenomenal. Would highly recommend these books. And I don't think you need to read them in order. I think that if you go online and you look at the series, and if there's one that speaks to you more than the others, go ahead and start with it. Like, they all, I think, stand well enough alone that you don't need to have read them in publication order. So the next author I have here wrote The Bear in the Nightingale and the trilogy around this, and I loved this. So this is Russian folk and fairy story inspired. It follows a girl who is still in tune with the old ways, the old sort of pagan ways of acknowledging spirits and folk and fairy creatures in a world that is quickly becoming overtaken by Christianity, and Christianity is working to squash all of these old folk traditions. I can't really talk about the series as a whole because I don't want to spoil it, but I think the cold and wintry atmosphere is beautiful. I think the connections to folk and fairy tale are fantastic. I cannot recommend this enough. Just so good. And I have also read Katherine Arden's middle grade, which is Small Spaces, and that I think would be perfect for Halloween. Fans of Goosebumps, I think will get a kick out of this book because it's about a girl who finds basically this family curse and realizes that she is about to be sacrificed to this like scarecrow king, pumpkin king sort of figure. If you have a middle grade reader in your life, would highly recommend that as well. Arden really shows her skill in being able to write not only for adults but for children, because Small Spaces didn't feel condescending. It still felt like a fun story for me as an adult, and so I would recommend that you check out Arden's writing. So the next book I have here is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. Naomi Novik has written a bunch of things, but the two with a very similar feel are Uprooted and Spinning Silver, both of which are more northern and fairy tale inspired. This is the story of a girl who is chosen by her local mage to basically become his servant and live in his tower and wait on him. He typically picks the prettiest girl, so Agnieszka is shocked when she is picked because she's sort of plain and like definitely not the type of girl that he normally would pick, but because she has a spark of magic in her, he's obligated to take her on and train her. And so we see they have a very like conflicted relationship at first. Eventually the two of them begin to work together to combat the woods, which are literally out to kill people. So as civilization expands, the woods are fighting back. The woods pollute people and they make people sick, and they need to be combated with magic. It was fantastic and I would recommend it if you haven't read it. Spinning Silver was also really great. That has 3 female perspectives and I liked some of them more than others. I think like now that time has passed, I do like Uprooted a little bit more than Spinning Silver, but Spinning Silver was also fantastic. The same quality of writing is there, and the same sort of fantastic fairy tale elements are there in both of them, so would recommend. The next book I have here is a recent fave, and that is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This stands in for the 2 things now that I have read by V.E. Schwab, so I can't speak for her whole body of works, but I have been impressed by the 2 things that I have read. So A Darker Shade of Magic is about 4 parallel Londons. One has been lost, Black London. Next to it is White London, which is very cold and corrupt. In the middle is Red London, which is where our main character Kel is from. And the last London is Grey London, which is the most equivalent to our own. So these are 4 parallel universes, 4 completely different geographies, but they all overlap in this one place called London, and Kel is a person who is able to travel between all the worlds. So this story takes off when Kel illegally transports an object from White London through into Grey London, and shit gets real. And it is fantastic. I love the world building, I love the magic, I love the idea of magic having agency and being this like corrupting force, and that's how Black London was lost. Like, I love it. And I'm so excited for the rest of the series. I think the world building is great and I love her writing. Similar to Arden, Schwab also takes a step into the middle grade marketing category with her fantasy. So the middle grade work that I have read by her is City of Ghosts, which is about a girl who can see ghosts, and her parents are ghost hunters and they make their living writing books about hauntings. And when they get a TV show, the TV show results in the family being transplanted from America to the most haunted city in Scotland. That was really fun. Again, I thought the writing was great. Like, I love when authors are able to transfer between marketing categories and write for different audiences. Again, I think that it's not condescending. It's definitely appropriate for children, but it's also fun for adults to read too. And I know Schwab also has stepped into the teen marketing category with the Our Dark duology, which I have yet to read, but I'm looking forward to. Schwab is an author that I have not read very much by, but I am very, very impressed by her writing and would definitely recommend that you pick it up. What video would be complete without me mentioning my all-time favorite fantasy author? This author has been with me since I was 9 or 10. I have read almost all of her works, and that is Tamora Pierce. So I'm holding up the first book in the Protector of the Small series because this, I think, is my favorite work by her. This is the story of Kel, who is the first girl to openly try for knighthood. Previous to this, in another series, Pierce's first work, the Song of the Lioness series, Alana secretly tries for knighthood, and because of her friendship with the King Jonathan, she eventually has the laws changed so that women can openly try for their shield. Nobody is like that interested in doing all of this hard work until Kel comes along, and so Kel is basically the first person to openly try and break into this job. So I feel like this book doesn't fall into the I'm not like other girls, despite the fact that Kel is a girl who is trying something that other girls have not been ballsy enough to try up to this point. Kel has a really unique family situation. She grew up in a different culture in which women are trained to fight and to defend themselves, and so when they move back to their country, to Tortal, that mentality stays with her. And so why wouldn't she try for this position, right, if it interests her? And in many ways, Kel embraces softer, more emotional aspects of her character, and I really appreciate that about her. Like, she is very kind, very caring, very much an advocate for change. She sees issues in her society in terms of sex and gender and abuse and mistreatment, and she is empathetic enough to care about these things, but also badass and brave enough to try and change them. And I really appreciate the nuance to Kel's character. You can start and read them in publication order. You can start with the most recent book, Tempests and Slaughter, which is much more like politically up to date, or you can start with my favorite, because I think it's my favorite. Really, you can start anywhere and go anywhere. It's just whether or not you want to be sort of spoiled, because the Tortal books are interconnected. You should check out Tamora Pierce if you haven't already. It is wonderful children's literature that I cannot stop talking about. I did my master's dissertation on this, and it was great. So those are 5 of my favorite female fantasy authors. All of these I think are amazing, and I would definitely recommend that you check them out if you haven't already. So before we go, we have to thank my patrons. Thank you, patrons, for your support, for enabling me to make videos like this one and longer form content as well. If you're interested in becoming a patron, the link for that will be in the description box down below. So thank you, patrons. Alright guys, that's it for today. Let me know your thoughts on your favorite female fantasy authors in the comments down below. And let me know your thoughts on the books that I recommended here today. Have you read any of them? What did you think? Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again soon with another video. Bye!